Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New Triers Workshop. This is kind of just a pilot episode. Each episode, we're just going to kind of do a kind of workshop, build enclosures, show some walkthroughs of your displays, get into the gritty of the fun do-it-yourself side of this hobby. And so today's first kind of pilot episode, we're going to be building enclosures. Like I was just saying a minute ago, I'm surrounded by them. So we're going to get right into it. So let's talk about the different enclosures, right? Obviously, there's a lot of different kinds of enclosures you can use. You can use simple things like ammo boxes that you can get at Harbor Freight or Amazon, or you can go all out and make some do-it-yourself kind of stuff like these fence posts. And then you can also use kind of industrial kind of designs like bud boxes and or the cable guards like Brian right there is showing off. And my cable guard, that's great. I really love cable guards. They look so professional. Same with the bud boxes. I actually keep mine up year round out in my house because it's drilled into the stucco, and it looks just like I have it right by the power boxes. It looks like just a regular coax telephone kind of box, and that's actually originally what they were used for originally. So yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of boxes you can use. They all work. I don't really have a specific preference. They kind of have just different uses for the different parts of my property. So other than that, do you have anything to say about that, Brian? About what's your preferred one?
I just wanted to add one more because this was a post on the X-Lights official page, and a guy said that Home Depot was selling these. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah,
Sportsman's. And they're by Plano, and of course all my fishing gears in Plano, my fish tackle boxes and stuff. And I love the box. I bought them as soon as he brought them up. I got online, looked at them. They were awesome. And the only thing is they don't have, and I know this was a question in that thread, that do they have a silicone gasket or anything? And it doesn't on the lid, but it snaps down. So all I'm going to do is put a bead of silicone on the lid, wait for it to start to set up, and then put it down, snap it in, leave it there for 24 hours, come back, pull it off. Of course, I'll put baby powder or flour or something on the actual box itself so it doesn't stick to that side of it. And then I have my gasket already made. So I don't know if anybody's already thought of that. It's what I was thinking of. I don't have to have a watertight box because it doesn't rain up here in December and November. We get snow, but it's a really dry snow. So yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to throw in.
No, thank you. And that's an important thing too about how you're going to be building your enclosures. Everyone's environments are different, their climates. And, me in California, Northern California, I do get quite a bit of rain during the show times, during that time of the year, but I don't have to have a quote unquote like airtight or watertight enclosure like somebody maybe needs to that is in a more wet environment, that their enclosures are getting hit in different directions. And maybe that's more of a focus for their enclosures. I've seen people even use igloo boxes, coolers, because those tend to be very, watertight. So it all just depends on your environment. So the enclosures that we're going to be showing here today are really for my environment and Brian's environment. And everyone has like a different kind of setup. So keep that in mind when we're making suggestions and building here today. So with that, let's get into like each different kind of enclosure. I kind of want to get into the insides a little bit. So it's going to take me a second here to put all these down and then bring them all back up. Give me a second here.
So while you're doing that, I know we're not at the point of inside the enclosure yet, but I did want to bring up, and I'm going to call it the X Fighter. This is for the Meanwell LRS. Vinny made these up for me. Vinny Bittinger made them up. I got them this week. And this is because I'm going from the CG 1500 box, I am going to the black plano box that I picked up at Home Depot, and I'm going with 4 power supplies in it. So he 3D printed these up for me, and they are absolutely awesome. I already have 2 of them made up, and I made it. I don't have to have any ventilation for my box because of the cold. I'm not worried about the heat. So I did the fan on one side, and then I did the fan on the other side. So, and then when I put those in my box, I'll have them going opposite directions so the fan's not sucking from the heat of the other power supply. So, and that's the LRS, the thin power supplies is what these are made from, but they can be made. Anybody with a 3D printer, what the heck's it called for the program to be able to print it is out there. You can talk to Tim Biggs. I think he makes them for both the NES, that's the thicker box, and then also the LRS boxes.
Yeah, the STL files. That's what you're.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. See, I don't have a 3D printer, so I don't have to worry about what flavor the files are.
Speaking of flavors and 3D printers, this is kind of a really cool, and I'm going to go switch it into a different view here. And you can see that this is a 3D, what Jdeation Designs sells is what they call their compact design. So it's an enclosure that you can fit into a 5x5 fence post. And the cool thing about these fence posts is you can paint them, you design them to make them kind of decorative. I got one right here that kind of looks like a present. It doesn't really show up very well on this green screen, but on that screen it does. Anyway, and so 3D printer. So this is a cool thing. You can actually 3D print a mounting system like this. And just like Brian, he has a 3D printed that Vinny made him, a 3D printed mounting system for his power supplies. So that's a great way. 3D printers are a great addition for your enclosures. You can make a whole mounting system or just little additions like that come super handy, like that power supply mount. I mean, I don't know if you've used it yet, Brian, but those things are super handy. Just one screw, it loosens it up, and then you have access to repair both your power supplies as well as to put back in. It makes it super easy because the access. And that's what really I want to take away on this episode is that, like, how I build enclosures, it's based off of access. I want to make it easy for me to build it as well as being able to make repairs or preventative maintenance throughout the whole year. Because I do use my enclosures throughout the whole year. A good example of that is this enclosure. You see how it's kind of this beige, brownish kind of color? Well, this actually is the color of under my eaves. And I actually put 5 of these under my eaves at my house so that I can power my house outlines year round. So as you can imagine, could just blend in and disappear when it's hooked up. I don't really have a photo. I should have got one. But that's hooked up on top of your eaves and kind of disappears, in your house. So that's kind of a cool design.
Oh, heck yeah.
And to build on that, I built something recently. So these are kind of the hot new thing everyone's kind of been doing is these press for music buttons. So this is a press the music button. The whole idea is that you press the button and it plays through speakers. It plays the music for a certain amount of time using a timer relay, and it turns itself off. So you're not blaring the music the whole night. And so I have this out there, and it also can be used. I made it into a receiver enclosure. So what's inside of here, which I actually can't get out right now, I'm still working on the easy mount system for it, but it basically is a Jdeation Designs fence post, that compact design I just showed a minute ago, inside this push sign. So that's kind of a really cool way of using your enclosures where it's actually a prop too out in your display. All right, let's go into another kind of enclosure. I'm going to go back into this this screen here so you can get kind of an inside. I think everyone loves the inside of these. So this is kind of a really simple enclosure using a ammo box. And what I actually did inside is that the way that everything is mounted in here is it's actually a cutting board. I just cut that cutting board using a saw, and so it fits inside of this ammo box. And then the power supply and the receiver is mounted inside of on the cutting board. So cutting boards are what, $1.50 or so at
Oh yeah, if that.
anywhere. And so that's a really easy way to enter this enclosure. You can get for about $5, $6 on Amazon, and then you attach the mount, which in this case is a cutting board, and you're about $7 into it already. So so this is a good way to enter making simple enclosures. All right, so then we're going to get into another kind of interesting enclosure. So
I feel like you're getting bigger.
I am. I'm going to build into it. I'm building into it. So this is another ammo box. I really like these ones. These are flat and they're rectangular, so I can fit kind of multiple different kind of components in here. I have a Pixel 2 things. I have a receiver. I got a power supply. I've used these that I've been able to fit 3 power supplies actually horizontally upright, and they fit really nicely in here. And then I'm able to put a F4 in there and then power a whole matrix. So that's a good little setup. And then as you can see in here, it's multiple different mounts. This is a 3D printed mount for the Pixel 2 things, and then another 3D printed mount that hooks up to the power supply and then the receiver. So another good use for
That's pretty nice.
So, yep, we're going to get bigger. So one more ammo box, or second to last ammo box today. I love ammo boxes. Like I said, the bud boxes are my second favorite. I think bud boxes are definitely more professional looking. If you're going to do something that's more like, presentable, I think the bud boxes are the way to go. Next is, again, the cable guards. But again, cable guards I feel like are perfect for that. You put them at the side of your house, and they're almost there year round. You put an F48 in there, and then all you have to do is hook up your Ethernet ports and then your receivers, and you're off to the races. So here's another enclosure. This one again, see, I used another cutting board, and that's secured on top of 2 power supplies that are horizontal. So it's actually just there's a little bit of spacers that the cutting boards sit on top of that go on top of the power supplies, and then that's an F4 Falcon. So yeah, really simple. You don't have to necessarily invest into professional mounting system, but when you do invest into those systems and you spend the time, you can build something kind of fun and amazing, something like this. And this is what we're going to be building today. And this is the F32B, not the F32AB, which is going to be coming out here soon, but this is the F32B, and this is using a Jdeation mounting system. Now, the great thing about the system, and we will get into it, is that it has all the things I love about it. Is it has easy access to, so I could, do maintenance on a power supply. It has a multi-racketed system, so everything's kind of, you build it from the bottom up when you do build the enclosure, and we'll get into that here in a minute. So that's what we're going to be building today. And Jdeation Designs, if you haven't seen that website, I suggest you go to it, and we'll go to that here in a minute. And it's a plug and play system, and you can really customize your enclosures the way you want them. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. So yeah, a lot to get into. So that's our enclosures, the different types. And so let's get into, we kind of talked about disguising them. I kind of like disguising them because in a way you could kind of put them closer to your audience without them knowing exactly what it is. That might not be important for everybody, but it's an option. Okay, so now that I'd like to get into the tools that you're going to want to need for a good, enclosure build. So, sorry, got to get my mouse. I'm like 20 feet away from my my monitor here, so bear with me, everyone. Now I have in the notes of this post, there is a bunch of links. So we're going to go through the links here in a minute, and so you can follow along with us. Um, like I said, we're going to be building the enclosure that you just saw. So this is our enclosure. I've already kind of done most of the work, so we'll get to the basic kind of build here in a minute. But again, tools. All right. So one of the most handy tools that you can have in this hobby, I'm sure Brian's going to agree with me, is this ratcheted little tool here, right, Brian?
Oh heck yeah, I use the crap out of that.
Yeah. So this, we're going to use this a little bit, and this is good. You use this basically to ratcheted your spade connectors, and then not only we're going to use our ratcheted clamp there, we're also going to use this thing called a ferrule clamp, or ferrule ratcheted clamp. And these are what ferrules are. Ferrules, I'm probably butchering that name. So, what they are is these little teeny kind of connections. And what these little tiny little bits of bits of metal is, it makes it really easy for you to plug into these Phoenix type connectors. So you're not having any fray wires. So we'll get into that in a little bit. There's always a good idea to have another kind of crimping tool. This is I like these sometimes a little bit more than the ratcheted versions. You get a really good handle on that. Strippers, always a good thing to have. Strippers. Then our various screwdrivers, all precision screwdrivers. You go in the hardware store, actually ask for precision screwdrivers. And then another fine tool to always have is a ratcheted screwdriver. If you ever played around with these, you're never going to want to go back to the regular screwdriver.
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. And they're becoming more, I mean, Husky, I mean, before it was like you can only get them from the more expensive brands. Now even Husky's making them. So that just shows that, So then you're going to have a precision type of pliers. Another really important thing is when you're making holes into our enclosure, like I did, and I kind of did a lot of this. Think of this as like a cooking show. You're not going to want to sit here and watch me drill 32 holes and put in all these glands. I mean, you can kind of get the idea. I can maybe do one in front of you right now, but I think you get the idea. So you're going to I have these cable glands, got holes. And how do you make these really nice holes? Well, I like to use these little step bits. And I buy the step bits exactly how the biggest hole is going to be. So I don't want to have to mark my step bit basically and have to back off to make sure I don't overstep my bit. So I buy this. This bit right here is a 25 millimeter bit. I'm going to go off millimeters. I'm sorry, everyone, but that's just how I am. 25 millimeters. And that's perfect for our Ethernet glands and our RS-45 glands or RJ glands, or our cable glands for the AC power extension that will go in. So that's perfect, the 25 millimeter length or diameter. And then I also have these 12 millimeter diameter bits. Now, these ones are perfect for the PG7 glands. And so keep grabbing the wrong side. Here we go. So this gland, that makes a perfect hole. When you drill through it all the way, you know that hole size is going to be perfect for your cable glands. So that's why I kind of like the step bit. You can kind of go to town. And speaking of going to town with it, this is how I like to do it, is I get the box.
I believe 25 millimeters is 7/8 inch. If anybody was wondering, I'm going to verify that real quick though.
I think it's
12 millimeter is 13 millimeters half inch. So it's the half inch bit if anybody needs.
Thanks, Brian. I think like 3/4 is what you're shooting for. So whatever that is.
There is a 3/4. Okay.
Yeah, it's 3/4 what you're shooting for. So, so when I'm drilling,
some of us are still in the standard stage.
I think it comes from like 3D printing when you have to. I don't know. Anyway, so I don't know. I could go on a tangent about that, but so the when I want to drill holes into this, you make a lot of mess. You make a lot of plastic mess. It's like getting coral props from Boscoio, and so except instead of coral dust, you're getting plastic shavings. So to minimize the plastic shavings and make it so you can almost do this anywhere in your property, I actually take the box that the enclosure came in, and I just stuff the ammo box in here, and then I just drill, and all the shavings just stay in this little box here. So then I just close the box and toss it in the recycling bin, and there I don't have to worry about it. So just a little tip for everyone. I know some people complain about shavings in this hobby, and I just gave you a solution.
That's an awesome idea. Hey, can I throw out one more thing real quick for spacing?
Yes.
Because this is, I've seen it being brought up, and then I did go back and watch Clyde Lindsay and Robert's video that they have on Leechburg Lights with building their enclosure, and the pixel strips work really good for the 1 inch or 2 inch spacing. Oh, you had it up. Okay. To get the good gap, to get a nice even spacing, and it keeps the holes straight as you're putting them in the side. So
exactly. I was going to mention that.
We didn't rehearse this, so.
No, and I thank you for bringing that up, because I don't want to forget that. So like when you're making these holes, like Brian was just saying, is use the mega tree strips that you get from Boscoio, and you can tape this to where on the enclosure, and then use it as an outline to drill your holes, because it's exactly the right spacing. You can use the PG7s, and I know people also prefer, I believe this is the PG9. Let me look. People prefer sometimes the PG9 over because the 7s are tight. They're a tight fit, and the 9s are nice too. But either way, use this mega tree strip as, like Brian was saying, an outline to make your holes. It's a simple tip, and but it saves. Look how nice these lines are. It's all because of that. So it's a very
Looks good.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, Brian. And so yeah, I was going to show that, but we got to it, so I don't need to. So that's perfect. The other thing that I use a lot is not only is the glands, like we mentioned, the PG7s, PG9s, and then the PG13.5 for the AC port. I also use these nice little Ethernet cable glands too. We have the link for that as well. And these ones you can see on our enclosure here. So makes it just, nice little way of having the Ethernet connections as well as your cable glands. So that's kind of the external part of our enclosure. And that's kind of our tools that we're going to be using today. I also forgot our label maker. So that's an important thing to kind of have, is a label maker. And I think I've covered all the tools. So, it's not like you don't need an arsenal of equipment. It's a screwdriver will do 90% of what you need to do here. And then all the other tools are in a razor blade wouldn't help either. So yeah, let's get into the build here. So my dog's kind of at my feet, so I'm kind of distracted for a moment here. All right, so
Tell Bella I said hi.
Oh, hey, Brian said hi. All right, so let's get into it. So I got the PG7 glands. I made my holes using the nice Boscoio stencil, and that's what we'll call it now, the stencil. And yeah, we're just going to start connecting the glands inside the enclosure. So like I was saying, people kind of tend to change it up. I've been hearing more and more people using the PG9s, the wider diameter, lately. And I have to say that it's nice, and it doesn't take any more space. I mean, I don't know if the name PG7 or PG9 designate the diameter. I don't think so, because to make these holes precise, you need a 12, I believe this is a, yeah, 12 millimeter or a half inch step bit. So I'm not really sure. Okay, so this is going to take us just a few minutes.
While you're doing that, I'm going to tell everybody, if you go up into the description of the video or of the live, there are the link addresses up there. Spader Christmas also has Jeff Lacey. He also did a video on his enclosure build, and he has an affiliate page with Amazon, and that's where we got some of these links from. I talked to him. He gave us permission to do it because I didn't want to, do something we shouldn't have. So they don't cost any more, but if you use his link and you buy them there, he gets kind of a little kickback from Amazon. It's the same exact price as you'd pay if you just went straight to Amazon. Kind of helps keep money, within the hobby, I guess. So he does have some really good links on there. He's got some really good videos. His video on um, his new enclosure that he did last spring, I think it um, was a little bit different type of setup. Pretty cool setup. I liked it. But you have to go in and watch the video for that one. It's a little bit different. So
Yeah, I have. There's so many ways to build these enclosures, like we've kind of showed in some of the examples here today. I mean, I didn't even show some of the more advanced ones, like people like to put lights into it. They like to put voltimeters in there, so you get live updates on the voltage being used, or the drops that potentially can happen over overuse or degradation of power supplies. So yeah,
and
no,
the
yeah.
and the cooling fan. I saw one you had a cooling fan in yours.
Yeah, it's now buried, but it's yeah, can
I was
definitely.
going to call it out, but
Yeah, that was one of my first enclosures I built, and it was kind of like that's when I knew my climate really didn't need it. Sometimes you want to build those things to be on the safe side. You don't know what your environment thresholds are, and so I built that not knowing, hey, I want it was close to my house. I wanted it to be safe, so I figured, hey, if I can control the airflow, that's one less thing to worry about. It turned out to not be an issue, especially during the December, October, November periods of the year where night times are 40 or so don't have to worry about that. But your environments, Florida, San Diego, Chile, I don't know. you might probably have to worry about that kind of stuff. So it's a good thing mentioning. So the wires that we're going to be working with, and we do have the links for that. I suggest going to Wired Watts to kind of getting a lowdown on different kinds of wiring to use on enclosures. So there's two different kinds that we are going to kind of use. These are um, tinned copper wires, and they're threaded, so they actually are very loose and they move a lot. And I really like these because you don't have to fight with the wire when you're putting it in the enclosure. But honestly, the best wire are these THNMM or MN wires. And basically there are, if you kind of see, they're thicker, not as much, they're not individually strands of wire, they're thick, bare pieces of copper. And these ones are more recommended. I think David Pitts recommends it as well. And so I think it's preference when we're going
I
such a
got it.
short. Yeah, when we're
I
going.
got it frayed out a little bit, but yeah, I use them too. So.
Yeah, and we go such a short distance too. Like this is about a foot, maybe even less. And with a distance that short, you can, I believe, I need to double check this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I believe 12 gauge wire, the threaded kind, the one with the finer threads, it actually, as long as you go about a foot, no more than a foot, it can handle up to 30 amps worth of power. So that's kind of the threshold we're trying to meet. So that's why a lot of people recommend 10 gauge wire, because that typically 10 feet or more of that wire, you can go 30 amps worth of power. You don't have as much ampage loss and stuff like that in the distance. So,
Yep.
but I typically use 12 volt, 12 of this looser stuff. I just like it; it's handy. But the 10 gauge thicker is just as, it's pretty much movable, but just a little bit more harder to work with. So I just wanted to mention that. Another thing I wanted to mention is, we'll get into that in a minute. I'm jumping the gun. All right. So, I built a lot of these already. And I'm sure doing this live, I'm going to mess up because this is just how it is. But so I like to make all my kind of wires beforehand. And so like a cooking show, this is already kind of done for you. So we'll do one, and you can kind of get the idea of how you do these things. So what we're going to need first and foremost is our tools, which is our wire strippers and our ratchet clamps. And hit my mouse. Okay, so so we got our wire here, and we're also going to need a spade connector. We're going to want to grab the appropriate spade size for your job. And then the next thing you're going to want to do, if we're doing a power supply 2 controller, we're also going to need a ferrule terminal connector. And again, you're going to want to get the appropriate size for your wire gauge. So we got all those. All right. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to measure how long you're going to want this connection. Now, if you've never done this before, how do you know how long you want your wire to be? Well, the best thing to do is actually start building it and measure while you're building it. So we'll do that because that's the appropriate thing to do. So it's important to have these two pieces ready to go, all your connections ready to go, and we're off to the races. So I went ahead and I designed my own mounting using Jdeation Designs. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit here. But let's just pretend that just came in the mail. And I have our mounting system. And I'm going for the double decker because I like them. Not only does it come with the 2 mounts, but it also comes with mounts for your power supplies. So the first thing we're going to need to do is get our power supplies and mount them to their respective mounts. I like these smaller LRS 350 12 volt power supplies, or 5 volts if you want to go that way. Nothing wrong with 5 volts. So, and we're going to use 4 because we're going to go all out as far as power here. So first thing we're going to do is there's a couple different ways you can mount these power supplies. Now, Brian mentioned he had a design that was kind of like this, where the mounts were set up horizontally and the fans were respectively pointing out the opposite way. So the
Opposite direction, yeah.
Opposite direction. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is a mounting kind of stacking method, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Again, you could do this a couple different ways too. Ricky at CL Controllers, which again, we're going to mention CL Controllers here in a little bit, but CL Controllers, they do a stacking vertically system like Jdeation Designs. So we're going to do a Jdeation Designs mounting. And how they do it is, kind of the cool thing about this is you can get kind of a pyramid kind of style. So it's not like a power supply on top of a power supply. You can see how if it's on top of each other, if I want to get to this bottom mount here easily, you have to go at a weird angle, and it's not as easy to get that tight screw fit. So the cool thing about Ricky's setup, and as well as Jdeation Designs, all these professional mounting systems, is that they do kind of a pyramid type of style. So you can get away with that. The great thing about Brian's setup and a horizontal setup in general is that easy access all the time, off the sides.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're using a stacking pyramid type of style. So let's get into it. The other cool thing about Jdeation Designs, when you buy their mounting system, they have all the tools in this little bag here. Everything that you are going to need is in this little bag. There's nothing that I have to worry about to go running out to the store for or any kind of thing like that. All right. So I'm just going to get some of I'm just going to dump it all on this table here because nothing's ever gone wrong that way. All right. All right, so I'm going to get some of the screws. These bigger ones kind of go with the power supplies. So I'm going to get 4 for each power supply. And this is where it gets really boring. So, but if you're tuning in and watching this, you must, you love us. So, or something.
Let me tell a story while you're doing that.
Please.
I don't have any good stories.
Well, as you can see here, I'm just using this really fun ratcheted screwdriver here to get the screws in. And so the first mount, first power supply, I screw the mounts into them this way. And I guess I kind of should finish it and then show the camera. God, I love that sound. So the first mount, if you can kind of see, is each one of the mounts is the same direction. And you can see where the holes are, where the screw holes, they're at this point of the mount. Yes, yes, exciting stuff. You all are probably saying, well, okay, so you've crimped the wires for us, but why didn't you screw the mounts to the power supply? You know what? I wanted to show at least that part of it. It really is that easy. All right, so this is our first one. And then this one is mounted where the holes are on this side of the mount. So the other one was on this hole, this on this hole. And the reason is that's how you get your pyramid style. As you can see, when they're stacked on top of each other, because they're mounted, staggeredly, they create a pyramid. Hopefully I'm explaining that right.
Which makes it nice. Oh, yeah, I understand. If I can understand it, everybody can understand
it. All right, cool. I mean, yeah, you can see how that kind of come in handy when you're kind of easy access to your screw holes and repairs. If you accidentally jumped the gun and didn't check your voltages before hooking up your power supply, and then all of a sudden that you find out you're at 12.5 or something like that volts instead of 12.1 or 12.2 or 11.9, and you're like, oh no, how do I gotta put that thing down, The good thing too about Jdeation Designs is you have all your screws, and they also give you one extra screw for everything. All the screws that you're going to need, they give you one extra, or nuts, or
bolts. You're going to drop. You're going to drop one.
Exactly.
It'll roll underneath the workbench or whatever. Murphy's Law.
And I don't have it with me right now, but another cool tool to have is a bowl, a magnet bowl. So so you basically you want to dump all your stuff in the magnet bowl, and then you know, don't have to worry about that as much. Something like this, it actually might help if you had a shorter screwdriver, but it's all good.
I was just looking for I got a Milwaukee one that is basically the little brother to this one with the ratchet driver. That's about 4 inches long. It's nice.
Yeah, that's what I need right for this. The 4-inch one would be perfect.
I'm just not using the ratchet because I didn't want it to interrupt you while you were talking.
These power supplies are I get my power supplies from holiday.lighting, and I suggest checking them out. This one's by, I believe the company is Chris Wald. I'm probably got his last name wrong, but he's a local in the hobby, so it's nice to support people within the hobby. You can also get these power supplies from arrow.com or even Amazon's. Meanwhile, selling them on Amazon now, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. But Chris at Holiday Lighting, I bet if you look at the prices, are a lot better. So check it out. And
yeah, Ken had some as well.
What's that? Ken, yes.
Ken over at Wired Watts. Yes. That's where I had gotten mine from because I got them when I was down at SoCal.
And both Ken and Chris, they both test the power supplies before they get shipped. So that not only do you have the Meanwell quality control, but you also have the seller's quality control. So I'm still going to test the volts once we have everything hooked up to make sure I'm on the right track before I power the controller. But I have the confidence in a way to know that, hey, these are going to be at least almost on point, you know? All right, so now that we've done the mounting, I also wanted to mention one little thing too, because I know that Jdeation, they ship you the acrylic with this kind of paper tissue kind of plastics on the acrylic. And I wouldn't mount that on your power supply because that's burnable. That's paper. It can, if it heats up enough, it can wick away and burn. I imagine so. I haven't really seen it with my own eyes, but get yourself a good little razor blade and a little handle and just kind of cut in, just go into it like this. And that way you can rip the that little piece of safety cover right off of the acrylic. So just a little tidbit I figured I would mention. All right. Running out of space here. I should have thought about that. All right, so
you always need bigger workbench.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing.
I know. Well, it's like a whole strategy. You never know what's going to happen, though. All right, so next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to show you. The next thing I got to do is basically attach these like screws, these long screws that basically create the multi-levels. So you use these screws to make it easy for your multi-level kind of setup there. So it's suggested to use a washer. So put the washer down, and then we get our nuts. And sorry, wrong one. He has the for the big bolts here. He has the nuts for those in a separate baggie. So that way you don't get mixed up or did the mistake I just did and grab the smaller one and try to force it down the big big rod. So I'm just gonna screw this on. Yeah, so hopefully everyone's having a good Saturday. Me and Brian are having fun.
As much fun as we can have.
You know, building enclosures, ones like these where there's no real like, I don't have to put too much thought into it. I'm just basically following a direction. Just plugging all the pieces together, and then in theory it's done. So that's kind of nice. There's the cutting boards. They're great. They're cheap, but you have to spend a little bit more thought on like get the size right, cut it yourself, match it up, make sure you get all the screws and everything. Like I said, this all comes with the screws that you need, all standoffs, everything in a little box or a little baggie. That's kind of handy. Another thing worth mentioning is, and Brian, can you show the screen right now for Ricky's site? So another way to go about this is also to, if your time is money, right, guys? So I think everyone in this hobby can build their own enclosure. I don't think, that's not a question. That's without a doubt that's possible. But sometimes, you don't have the time to be able to build your own enclosure. Sometimes you end up, not having the confidence. Maybe it's your first time doing it. So there's already some great people out there that are providing their services now. They're making enclosures. And honestly, if you price out, you look at what they provide for you and everything like that, and you price it all out, it's worth it. Time, money, components, everything. You cost it out, it's a no-brainer. And so if Brian could share the screen as soon as he can, we will show.
I'm waiting for it to load. I didn't have Ricky's site up. I had Jdeations ready to go.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's taking forever to load. It might be my internet.
Okay. Well, I want you to go to the enclosures. Yeah, the controllers. Yep. Connector.
There we go.
Yep. Shop.
I could say it might take a minute.
It's all good. So as you can see, the two professional looking, and if I was to buy an enclosure, I would take no other exceptions. I wouldn't want anything but a bud box or a cable guard enclosure. So that's the only thing that Ricky provides. And so he has 3 bud box enclosures that are ready to build, ready to go type of systems. You get something as big as a 48 port version, a 32, and all kinds of different configuration. But what I really want to focus on is the receiver box one, the CL Cable Guard 2000 down there. Now, if you really price this out, you look at it, power supply, the wires, the components, ordering all that stuff up, you price and then you compare what he's selling it as. I mean, it's very tempting. Great deal. So something to look at. If you don't want to build, you want to do something like a Jdeation Designs, enclosure or you don't want to build it from scratch, Ricky's CL controllers are a great alternative, amazing alternative, professional.
Just make sure you specify what connectors you're using. I did make that mistake when I was last year, well, 2 years ago when I was first getting started. I didn't realize there was different pigtails, and when I got mine from Pixel Controller, I bought the setup there, and I didn't realize that it just defaulted to the DIY connectors, the small ones.
Oh wow! Really?
And then I was ordering Raywu connectors.
Yeah.
Well, pixels, and yeah. So just pay attention to that. I did make that mistake. That was oopsie on my part. And I'm slowly getting all of the DIY connectors out and all Raywu connectors in. So
yeah, thank you for mentioning.
Call it a newbie mistake. So, but yeah, make sure you look at specifications, what you're looking for, what you want to do. If you already have the receiver board, or if you want to have him at it, it's all there for you. Connectors, what voltage you're going to be running your lights at, and for the pigtails. So
yeah, if you want a distro board as well, that's what that bottom one is, the F8 without pigtails. So if you wanted to do,
there we go.
If you wanted to add like an F, just a distro board, an F8, and you wanted, a fused board, and you didn't want the pigtails because you're thinking, hey, maybe I'm not actually going to do power injection, but it's nice to have that distro board in there, and then I can add the pigtails later. That's what that yes and no means.
So, okay. Yep. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, it's pretty handy. And I know I can see this market expanding, to be completely honest with you. I think more people are going to be making more ready to go controllers, because right now there's so many different, like what Ricky's really providing is a Falcon ready to go system. To go out, the market's just going to explode because there's a lot more choices with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get these bolts kind of tightened down, that's about it. Then you're just stacking things. Then you're just kind of you're plugging things into this mounting system, and you're ready to go. So this is kind of the most tedious kind of good moment. And
so while you're doing that, for those that haven't gone to it yet, because I was trying to get a jump on this when Keith asked me what I was working on this week, and I'm using good old particle board. And what I'm going to do is just use all thread on mine, and then that's going to be my stanchions for my second tier, which is going to have the F16 with the expansion board on it. Power supplies will fit underneath it, and I got plenty of room with that Plano box that I'm using. But this is going to sit on the bottom,
and then
and then I'm going to elevate it with just some blocks, 2x2 blocks of wood, elevate it, and then where I can still lift it out of there if I need to. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of moisture because of the coldness, but I do want a little bit of air. So in the very bottom of my box, just like I did on my P10 panel, super small holes, just like little, maybe like pinholes on the bottom of the enclosure, just so it can kind of get a little bit of air if it needs it. So but all thread works. You just cut it off. If you haven't used all thread before, I'm sorry, Keith, I don't know if you were going to say something. When you're using all thread, if you haven't messed with it before, it is super easy. You can find it anywhere, Ace Hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. And what I do before I cut it off, I always thread my nuts onto the all thread first, cut it off, and then when you pull your nut off, it'll straighten those threads for you. So when you go to screw in the nut again, the threads will be lined up for you. If you use 24 thread, 22 thread, 16 thread, whatever you're using, they'll line up after you cut it off. So that's how I'm doing mine. I just didn't get over there to get it done while we were doing the build. So
Yeah. All right. So that was a little more tedious than I wanted it to be. But so now that we've gotten our first power supplies in there, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure how high that we want our next layer that the power supply is going to be on. So Jdeation gives you these kind of vinyl tubes that you're going to have to measure and cut yourself. And it's actually really easy to cut them. I use just a regular razor blade knife to cut into it. But to mark them, I get a little Sharpie. I figure out how high I really want it to be. I want it to be basically a ½ an inch or so above the other power supply. Mark it. And it turns out, if you look, it's actually exactly half of the tube length is where I'm going to be cutting. So I only need 2. He cuts them all at the exact same lengths. So as soon as I know exactly where to cut, just line it up, cut it right down the middle. So it's pretty easy. Slide it in. I'm use the next one as a template for the next one. Mark it. Cut it. All right. And then you slide them in like this. And then the next power supply goes right on top. Boom. So as you can kind of see, there's a space in between so airflow could kind of go through. And it's pyramid, so you can easily get to your screws on the power supply. And then what you're going to need to do is to finish this side up, you're going to just cut a few more of those little tubes. So just going to cut it at the halfway mark. Next one, halfway mark. Just eyeing it now because it's pretty easy to tell where halfway is. We're going to put that on the other side here. So we could put the next power supply on. So that's all in there like that. All right, and then, so now we're gonna put spacers on the top here so we don't have to screw a long nut down this long path here. We can just use more of these spacers to make it so the screw nut just is right on the top. So we're just gonna take the tube again, our Sharpie, measure just a little bit below that mark right there so the nut has a good few threads on it. And this time it's going to be a little bit less on one side than it is on the other side. So we're not going to be able to make an even cut on each one. But that's fine because we can use the extra later for standoffs later. I'll show you. So don't throw away any extras. Just keep them. So that goes there. And let's see. Let's just line it up really quick. See if we got it good. So yeah, that's good enough. We don't need to make it so it's super tight. We just need to make it so it's easy to, we're not, because this, I don't know if you can tell, but if you were to put the nut all the way down, you're going to be threading the nut against the power supply, which is very hard to work with. All right. Okay. That one's in. Next one. All right. All righty then. And like I was saying, you want to keep any extras, might as well. You can use them as standoffs later. Because the F-32 is kind of an unconventional cape. The way that it sits on the Beagle Black, there's a lot of overlap. So those require a lot of standoffs to make it so when you're plugging in the Phoenix connectors, you're not um, bending the board. Makes sense?
Does to me. Oh, I thought I was still muted.
No.
Does to me.
Cool. So I don't know how
Okay, I
long.
just put the link on there if anybody wants to join in, if they have any questions. I haven't seen much on, except for Robert. Robert Hart has said hi, and
Oh,
he
hi,
likes
Robert.
he likes those thin LRS power supplies as well.
Yep.
So,
Yep, I love them too. I mean, you can pack a lot into them. Another way of going about it is, I'm going to start investigating more into it because I was a little hesitant at first, is server power supplies. Now, this one is a weird, awkward, long one, but they do make the 750 ones that are about half the size. And so,
hang on.
you have one?
And I even have it's a little dusty. I got it last year. I just didn't get it. This is the regular sized one, not quite as long and skinny as Keith's there. And I do already have the breakout board on it. So, and it does, where I got it from with the eBay, it does already come with the voltage meter on there as well. So, but I haven't done anything with it yet. I guess I was still a little nervous to get going with that far. So,
yeah, I was a little hesitant at first too because I felt like it was so much like back when when LEDs kind of first hit the hobby, and the idea was like, oh, you can use like old tower computer power supplies and kind of jump these two wires, and then boom, you got 12 volts up the wazoo, and you're off to the races. But that was just sketchy to me. This didn't seem right. And but this is different. With the breakout board, it removes the sketchiness, and then in reality, these power supplies have a lot of protections in them, a lot more than the supposed specialty designed LED power supplies, like the Meanwells that you can get. So now I'm willing to give it a try. Except now I'm hesitant about it because the price. Okay, yeah, I can get a HP power supply for $10, maybe cheaper, but then I got to buy a breakout board that's $750 to $10, depending on it, or even 20 if you have to go to the mining people and get it that way. And so then what? I'm $30 or $20 in it anyway, and I can get a LED power supply for that price too. Holiday Dot Lighting could get you a Meanwell power supply for about $25 shipped to your door. So you know, that's where I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm gonna get a little bit more wattages. I'm gonna get a lot. So it basically is two mean wells, kind of. But you want to never those power supplies. You wouldn't want to run them at 100% anyway. So there's a little bit of headroom you want to keep safety wise too. So I don't know. So yeah, that's it. So the power supplies are all mounted in there. That's ready to go. And so now it's time. I think now we can talk about cutting wires and figuring out how um, how the space is going to be as far as that. So I'm going to just stick these in so we can get this mount on top. So, there you go. Boom. So that's it. And we're going to, this is a little high. We're going to adjust it a little more, but this is, now that it's outside the box that we're going to eventually put it into, we can kind of line up how our wires are going to be, how the wires are going to, the lengths that we're going to need. So there's no controller here. So Keith, how can I know where my controller is? So let's grab that. And I'm just going to put the controller upside down of where roughly it's going to be. That's right where it's going to be. And then this is where I'm going to line my cables. I'm going to figure out the lengths and everything. So I get a good idea is to get maybe a piece of twine or an extra pair of wire to use as you're measuring. And then that way you can go back to your spool and cut at the lengths you need. And you really just need to measure one side because it's a mirror image. One side is going to tell you the length of the other side. So let's just work on this side over here, closest to our second camera over here. So, so let's take this extra cable as our measuring device, and we're going to go a little bit past of where that connection is because we know that we're going to need to splice that and then add our ferrule cables on. So we're basically going to go a little bit past that. And I'm measuring almost to the exact length. So there's almost going to be almost no slack. So if you're not worried, if you want a little bit of slack, you don't care about this, maybe that's this, you don't have to be this precise. But so I measure that about right here. And then I'm going to run it to where it's going to go roughly on the power supply. And I'm just going to go about an inch further because you know it's got to, you have to, again, you're going to fray that end here. You're going to slice that end and you have to put a spade connector there. So that's going to have some bare wire too. So that's about right where I want it. So I'm going to cut that twice. So I'm going to cut that once right here. And then I'm going to cut that again because I know one side and the other side is going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to cut right here. And then, so there. So we got our red for this one and our red for that one. That's done. So we'll put that to the side. Okay, now we're going to work on our black because, I mean, I could just take the red and the black lengths and be safe, but, you know, why not? Spend the time. Cut your lengths exactly what you need, not any more, not any less. So then we're going to go there, measure that roughly, take that, and like, as you can see, I'm not getting in there with the calibers and making sure it's exactly pinpoint accurate, but I'm getting a rough way of how it's going to be. And this makes it a lot easier. So then I can sit on the couch if I wanted to, or on my seat and just go to town crimping and splicing. And that's kind of how I did it. And that's how I ended up with these. So, all right. So now we got our two lengths. I'm going to show you kind of how you're going to crimp the spade connector and our ferrule connectors onto our wires. So let's start with the spade connector first. So we're going to take our little splicer here, or go to our wire, and there's this little teeny little gate here. I'm actually going to.
Hey Keith, while you're doing this, I'm going to step away for a second. I got to get my brisket in the Instant Pot. So I'll be right back.
Okay. So this little tool has a little gate here. Now, this little gate can make it really easy for you to measure the distance of how much wire you actually want to, to strip. So I'm going to take about an inch of strip off. So there you go. It's one side. And then I'm going to go to the other side here. And this side is going to be where the ferrule connector is, or sorry, the spade connector. So I'm going to actually take a 3/4 of an inch off. That's going to go. I give these ends a little twist with my hand. And then, so with the ferrule connector that we have here, that's going to be the longest amount of wire that you're going to use. And you're just going to stick it in and give it a little twirl while you're sticking it in. And you want to see, you kind of can't see it with the camera, but you want to see the wires actually coming out a little bit of the ferrule barrel ends. And that's when you know you have the wire, all the wires are going through and you have a very nice connection. Now we get our ferrule ratchet connectors here. And we stick the ferrule all the way in. So it's lined up with our ferrule ratchets. And we just clamp it down and release. And now we got a really good piece of connection that when we stick it into our Phoenix connectors, we don't have to worry about any fray wires or any kind of loose pieces of wire here. So that's how we do the ferrule connectors. Now, to do the spade, you take the shorter end that you've sliced, and you're going to slide the ferrule in. And again, you're going to have the wires slightly poking out, not that much though, just so you can see it with your own eyes. You're going to get your ratcheted clamp here, and you're just going to clamp them, squeeze them on down. That's it. So that's how we got to this point with all of our excess wires that we're going to be using today. So that's how we are going. That's how the wires are kind of set up. So now that that's kind of explained, let's hook up the wires. So the good thing about the ferrule kind of connectors is that it makes it really easy. So when they go into these connecting ports right here, it makes it really easy to connect them and then disconnect them to later. So my main focus right now is actually going to be on the power supplies and getting them up and running. So let's go and hook up their connections. And now they're just getting 2 spade connectors, not a ferrule connector. So using a flathead, go. We're going to get loosen our power supply connections here. Yeah. So move that over. Oops. There we go. Hope everyone's having a great Saturday. I can't read the comments. I'm sorry. Brian is reading my comments for me. But please do comment in the Facebook post. You can also join us on the Zoom. We are in the Professional Triers Zoom room. You're always welcome to join us during these live broadcastings. Yeah, so Brian is just putting the brisket into the oven, and I am just repairing this power supply because we're doing this live and things happen. So, oh my God. I hate when these little connections get loose. Okay. All right. So now we're just going to make all of our connections. Hey, John, how you doing? Joe, I mean, sorry. Apologize. Oops, wrong one. Oh, you just muted yourself. Yep. So yeah, this is just the fun part of the power supply and the enclosure connection parts. So we're just gonna. Oop. Yep, this one's gonna get tightened. And this one's gonna get kind of loose right now. Just keep connecting. Yeah, sorry I'm not talking too much right now. It's just kind of, at this point, it's just, I don't know if you can even see what I'm doing right now, but all I'm really doing is I'm basically attaching spade connectors for our AC power. And how I got these wires is when I make I buy the AC power cables in basically 10 to 6 feet lengths, and then I cut about 2 feet of that off, and that's all my extra wire for the power supply connections. And you're going to want to connect all the AC connections and the grounds DC wise too. Though, to be honest, if you have all your power supplies going to each port of your power controller, that should handle all the ground DC connections. So you might not need to even do that. So let's keep going. Nope, turn that too down, too quick. Yeah, we just decided to go live to do this today. Kind of hit up Brian on Friday and was like, so I wanted to do kind of a build to show how easy it kind of is. Um, that's kind of the original idea, but you know, who knows if that's really coming across in the video. But it is. It's relatively easy to do this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty easy. I do kind of want to show how uh, Jdeation really makes making the mounting system very customizable. Um, the way I designed this mounting is going to be different than how somebody else might make it. So that's kind of a fun, creative thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's getting to that point where we're almost about done, if you can believe it. So yeah, there we go. I know from personal experience that this is going to be a little too high for how I want it inside the end result. So I'm going to take off just right now. I'm going to take off probably a 1/4 of an inch off each one. So just measure that, 1/4 of an inch. Quarter of an inch. And then we're going to get our knives. Look at that. Now I'm going really quick with that. And it's a dull knife at that. So don't ever use a dull knife. Bam. All right. So what do we do now? I got thing here and that's on top of there. And what do we do now? All right. Well, the next piece is to actually put this into our box. But so let's go get that. Let's bring that up. And we can zoom this guy out. All right. We're going to drop this in. So we want to have it the way it's going to be. Put that in. Boom. So now it's all dropped in there. Hopefully you can see that. And hey, Brian's coming back, so he'll be here in a second. And we will get to the next part. So you can see that now that the everything is slid into the enclosure, now we need to add the AC power. How's the brisket, Brian?
It is seared and in the Instapot.
Nice. All right, so now that we have the AC power cord inside of our threaded through the gland, we need to get our trusted spade connectors, and we are going to crimp the spade connector onto our ends of our AC cable here. And that just makes it easy to, really not a requirement, but it's nice to make it easy to mount or to screw into your power supplies. How about, do you use the spade connectors at all, Brian?
I do not. I haven't yet. I do have them in my basket at Amazon, so I am gonna be going to them with these builds that I'm doing. I'm doing 3 boxes, so they're all gonna have them.
Yeah.
And the ferrule connectors too. So
yeah, it's
just
here in a second.
I messed when I was adding. I'm sorry, the CG 1500s that I got when I was adding the second power supply for this past season. It was just such a pain to get it twisted to make sure you didn't have anything sticking out, because I mean you have a lot going in there. You got 9 different areas that you're going to screw into, and getting every wire to make sure it's good and tight. And if depending on how much room you have, I didn't have a whole lot of room, and it just made me so nervous that one was going to stick out, I wasn't going to see it, and was going to cause issues. And I really like my Falcon boards. I don't want anything bad to happen. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to go that route this year.
Yeah, and you're going to see it in this build when you get to the point that, right now I'm doing all the spade connectors on the power supplies. And then when I get to the ferrule connectors, it's like, it's just plug. You just plug them into the Phoenix connectors or to the power supply or to your controllers. And it just, I mean, it just, yeah, you don't have to worry about any fray wires. I mean, it's just peace of mind at its best. So yeah, we're just about ready to start working on the controller part of it. So now I got my, so I think sometimes something worth mentioning is that a lot of people, so I got all, sorry, scatterbrain right now. We're almost 2 hours in, I feel, or something. Anyway, we're almost done. Now that we have the power supplies all connected to the AC outlet, a good idea is to power it on and make sure you're getting the correct voltages. I already did that beforehand. This is kind of like a cooking show. Some of it is pre-done beforehand. So that, but to do that, basically, you're going to get your multimeter. Quick little synopsis, because I think it's worth mentioning, is that you're going to get your multimeter or voltimeter, put it into this little V symbol here. You probably can't even see that, but you're going to need it in the DC signal side, and you're basically going to, take your two prongs and positive to negative, negative to positive, and you're going to get your reading of what's your voltage. If you need to change, if the voltage is not where you want it, there's on the side of the power supply, there's a little dial on the farthest left side, at least on the mean wells. That's a petameter,
I
I
was
think.
going to get a close up on.
Yeah, if you could. I have another power supply right here, actually. I got one right here, Brian. So let me get really, yeah, thank you, Brian.
Yep.
So
There we go.
yeah, right there, that little connection. Yep, right there. You're going to turn that, I believe, clockwise is going lower, counterclockwise is going higher on the voltage. But go easy on it. Make sure you do not have anything connected to it when you're doing this, other than providing AC power, because you do not want to fry your board. If you spin that too fast, you will go too high or too low.
The slightest little move will change it because you're only changing it just a few decimal points. So the slightest little turn will change it. Don't get on there and crank on it because you're going to knock it way out of whack. So just a slight, slow little move.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't take much. So now we've done that, we're just going to take all of our connections that are short little wires that we made with that we have our ferrule on one side and our spade connectors. And we're just going to connect them to each of the power supplies, just like we did with the AC. I'm just going to do that really quick. Something worth mentioning now that we're at this point and we're about to hook up these wires to our controller, like a lot of people suggest using fuses from the power supply to your controller. Have you heard that before, Brian?
I actually asked that question in one of our small little groups about that, and I got kind of different reviews, but majority said you don't need to because they're fused at the board.
Exactly. I feel like if it was a problem, if it was a problem, how my thought is that all these board manufacturers, Dan, David, everyone, if that was a problem, wouldn't they add a fuse at that point anyway? It's
Yeah.
not that they have they're manufacturing the boards. They know what the boards can take. So I'd imagine if that was a problem, that they would add those 30 amp fuse to that part of the connection, just like you have 5-volt 5 amp fuses for your pigtails. If it was a problem, they would do that. And the fact that they don't do that is enough for me to think, yeah, it's probably not worth investing in. So that's not what you're going to see here. I do have one right here to give you an idea of what we're talking about here. Some people get these basic fuses. You can put a regular ATM fuse inside of that one. You put like a 30 amp fuse onto that, and then that goes from your red wire, your V plus, from your power supply to your board connection right here. And some people suggest that what me and Brian are saying is that it's not very necessary. So, but
Right.
it's worth mentioning because I know somebody out there is going to be like, why, what, that's step missed here, step missed. And no, there's no step being missed here. I think fuses, it kind of goes on the long line of adding those voltimeters, the live voltimeter readings. Because like once you've dialed your voltage, you don't need, it shouldn't drift. If it drifts, that means your power supply is bad. But that's such a rare thing. For 10 years, I've never seen that. So not something to worry about. All right. So that's the negative or the positives. Now we're going to do the negative. Some of this, I'm messing up on a step here. Part of the good thing about this design is that you don't need to do what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of making this a lot harder than it needs to be. I can stick this whole thing out of its shell and then put the wires in and then drop it back into the enclosure. But you know what? I'm already just about done. So all right, one more or two, something like that. So worth mentioning in the kind of controller news arena, Dan Culp recently announced that he's going to have maybe even 3 new boards coming out. So something to look into. He's going to have the A series of all of his controllers. So basically, he's going to have the F32A B, and then he's going to have the F40A, and he's going to have a new board, the F16A. So it's going to be much like the Falcon F16, but with the Beagle Bone. It's going to be a Beagle Bone cape instead. And so that's going to be kind of handy. And some of the cool things that are going to be added to it is it's going to have a high def or high quality DAC attached to it. So you can get high quality sound. You don't have to use like a sound blaster. I would love to hear what Jason Rasmussen has to say once he gets his hands on it. He's kind of the general expert when it comes to sound quality and shows. But yeah, that's something to really look forward to. And it's going to be already, you can basically you can put a sequence on these Falcon boards, these capes, and you can run your show sequence, your schedule right off of that. So it's basically a whole show in a box, once this thing's in here. But with the new versions, with the high def capabilities, and he's also going to have you can be able to attach a FM transmitter cape on top of that, and that's going to allow you to do some really cool. You don't have to have an external transmitter. The transmitter will be attached to the board, and so then
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then you combine that with the high def sound. I mean, in theory, it should be the best quality you can get because there's no wires carrying the sound. It's all on the board. That I'm really looking forward to that. I should be getting those soon. All right, so now that we have wired everything up in here, I'm thinking that we're basically done with this part of the build, and we're going to get to finally mounting the controller to our top mount, and then that's going to be it, basically. It's that easy. So I'm going to put this over here for right now. And I'm going to get back our top mount. That's going to go right here. And so first thing we're going to need is we're going to get our beagle bone. So we got our, sorry guys. So I'm back, and here's our beagle bone. And first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to get kind of the general position of how everything's going to be set up. And so you can kind of see, you can kind of line up where all the holes kind of line up. So about right here, that's the front. And then this is the back. So like I said earlier, all the tools that you're ever going to need comes in the bag. Hey, Jason, how's it going, buddy?
I didn't want to interrupt you, Keith.
No, yeah, no. So we have a special guest here right now, Jason, who's the founder and maker of Jdeation Designs, and so he's the guy that makes these and designs these mounting systems. So, hey, Jason, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, we can hear you great.
Yep, got you good.
Yeah, it's going good, man. We're at the good part, I think. The actual attaching the board to the top mount, and then it's just putting it on top of, and we're ready to go. It's that easy. I was just explaining how your kits come with all the mounting brackets set up, and with extra pieces, like everything, like down to the screw. You have one extra screw for everything, which is yeah. Yep.
So in this case, having leftover parts is a good thing.
And I carry it over to the next project. It's like that baggie just kind of goes with me to the next one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the idea with the vinyl tubing. It makes it so it's very, all you need is the razor blade basically to cut into it to get your heights all set up. I mean, it's great. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And with these Dan Colt boards that we were explaining earlier, that because it's a cape on top of a board, it has so much overlap and flex with the board. So to have all these extra standoffs and using, like when I cut the extra tubing, I kept every single extra piece because all of it could be used as standoffs eventually, or to get that exact height that you need. So it's like what I learned when I was doing irrigation sprinklers, is that even when you're cutting like small little pieces of PVC pipe, you keep everything. You never know where that tiny little weird little needs to come in handy for that last little corner at the end of the yard. So, but mhm. I love them. My first experience with them was at JR's Orchard, and we did the 32 B. It's the 32 port board that sits on the beagle bone, and honestly, that ran it so well. And the fact that you could kind of have it as a show computer too, you don't have to worry about having a computer sending everything just comes off of here. And then if you have more Falcon Pi players, or even the Falcon F16 now, you can run it as a remote. So you can actually use this Falcon Pi player or this board, and send the remote syncing packets to your controller. So you're not sending out I-131 or Eve 131 or the old kind of protocols. You can use a more streamlined, efficient protocol now. So that's kind of a big advantage, I think. And plus, like if you cost out right now, if you cost out like a Falcon, an F-16 with an expansion, 32 port expansion, and an expansion for receivers, you're at like $300. And this does that for 90.
Fraction of the cost.
So entry wise, it's a good way to go. No, if anything, the BeagleBone has got so much headroom as far as processing. It doesn't it uses, because the BeagleBone basically has 2 core processors, and it uses it uses pulse modulation very efficiently, because that's what basically these lights use, is pulse modulations to light up and to know what it's at in the sequence. And so it's far more efficient processor than even the Pi player or the F-16 as it is, because F-16 uses a system on die kind of chip that's almost, it's bottlenecked as it is right now. Like if we wanted to add more features or anything, it's already maxed out. And you can tell because when you add an expansion, you start reducing the amount of pixels you can actually throw onto your ports. And that's because you're not using the power modulation as efficiently as compared to the BeagleBone. And then the Pi player is the same thing. Pi player isn't as efficient as the BeagleBone, but it's more efficient when it comes to CPU power. But the Falcon doesn't use too much CPU. So yeah, no, it's great. And then again, you can use protocol like DTP, which is a far more efficient pixel protocol. Or you can do the remotes, and then you're just sending syncing packets. So it's just saying, hey, I'm at this part of the sequence. Where are you at? Oh, I'm at that part too. Go on, keep going. You're good. So that's all it's doing. There's not like constantly receiving, data and making sure I still have it. And then, okay, it's a more efficient way of going about it. Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. It's funny too, because it really, I think it was, if it wasn't for Dan Culp investing as much time as he does with the Falcon Pi player, the software, that this board wouldn't be as recommended as it is. Falcon Pi player is leaps and bounds different than it was even a year ago, 2 years ago. So now it's so reliable that you can build these capes and run a show super reliably. And you can push them to the limits where you can have a whole cape that has 32 ports, and then you can have 4 more receivers off of it. It's crazy. And so yeah, it's funny too. If you want to talk about history really quick, the Falcon boards, they originally started as BeagleBone capes. David Pitts kind of started out kind of making capes on top of a BeagleBone, and he kind of got away with that really quick when he did the F-16 V2. And then that board was the first one that we got the red board, and then that kind of expanded, and the so the V3 came out, and that's what we have now. So it all kind of started as a BeagleBone. And now we're kind of going back to that because now the software has matured. Yeah. So now that I think there's a few different ways. This is kind of the frustrating thing about capes, is that there's no real good way, I feel, to mount these things. Because you can either do the BeagleBone on top of the mount, or you could do the cape on top of the bugle bone and then mount that together. But there's no easy way to do it, and there is through holes, so you can, in theory, have this hole mounted, and then you can get to the holes down here to get to to mount your board together. But it's not easy, so I do it this way, and we'll see how easy it is when I'm doing it live. So another trick I kind of learned about these boards is that it's impossible to get to some of the more important components later on. If you want to get to the SD card, it's hard to get to. It's something, even if you were to make like a hole here, like Jason, even if a hole was created here, and I've seen some designs where somebody's taken a hole or taken, 3/4 circle and done a couple circles there, and so they can get to the SD card. But the problem is once it's mounted, yes, it's easy to get it out and stuff like that. It's still hard if you want to get quick access. So for a solution on that, and what Dan's actually suggesting now is these little SD ribbon extenders. So all it is a SD card slot in a little ribbon cable that connects to your SD. So I'm just going to plug this in right now, right there. And you can imagine it's a lot harder when it's a tiny little thing there. So now I can easily get to my SD card anytime I want, because it's going to be got this long length. And another thing worth investing in is a 6-inch USB extension cable too, because if you're ever going to plan to run this on Wi-Fi, you don't want the Wi-Fi dongle here to be close to the USB port. The reason is because there's a HDMI port right by the USB, and supposedly the HDMI serial interface, the ports there, they interfere with the Wi-Fi frequencies. So if you were to have this dongle directly connected to your port there, you wouldn't get as nearly as good as the signal compared to if you just run a USB extension. So that's another little thing that I learned recently. So so worth getting these two things. It will make it easier for you to A, get to your USB dongle, and then B, more importantly than anything, get into your SD card. Because right now, yes, you can upgrade in the about settings and upgrade. There will eventually be a version that you will have to reflash your SD card. And you don't want to get in a situation where you got to take every little bit of the mounting system that you spent, just 10 minutes on, because it really doesn't take that long. But you don't want to redo it again if you don't have to, So that just something worth mentioning. So now that you're exactly. So now we get to the fun part. I'm gonna attach this onto the cape, and you want to spend some time to make sure everything is matched up just right. This is definitely the funnest part. The cool thing, so Wired Watts has this board available. Dan Culp currently doesn't, but you can normally get it on his website. And Dan Culp, when he ships these boards, and you buy it with a beagle bone, he has the boards attached to the beagle bone when it's in transport. So that protects the pins, because everything's all together, it's wrapped, it's protected. Now, what I not to fault Ken at Wired Watts, but what he did differently was that he actually used foam, and he sandwiched the foam onto the pins. And if you watch Clyde's recent video that he did about the F32, he had bent pins, and I had bent pins too. So just something to be aware of. When you get these boards from either Dan or Ken at Wired Watts, you got to spend some time to make sure your pins are lined up correctly before what I just did, slam them in. So this is something worth noting. I know people are expecting it to be ready to go. There is a little bit of finessing you might need to do. So there, now that's done. It's basically mounted. If to add a little bit more secure, I added a couple more standoffs, and I have, you can, I'm actually curious, can you stack 2 standoffs on top of each other? Yeah, you can. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, next time if I was to do this, I would stack 2. Yeah, the space is perfect. If you actually stack 2 standoffs on top of each other, it's the exact height you need for the part of the board right here where it overlaps on the cape. I don't know if I can get that. Oh, it's hard to get angles. So it's, see, there's a little bit of a bend here because it's a cape. It's got it over. So you're going to have to do that. But this is where it comes in with the extra vinyl. So I stick that vinyl in, lift up a little bit, put it in that little hole. And then I don't have it with me right now, but I have an extra um, 3M 10 millimeter screw that I use to get that final length. So we're going to have to, you're just going to have to imagine that for me right now. But honestly, the better way to go, now that I actually think about it, is just using 2 standoffs, putting them together, and you got the right height. Just eyeballing it right now. Yeah, that's exactly the right height that you need. So we're spending a little bit more time on that. So now that the board is ready to go, now we're gonna just throw it into our enclosure with our power supplies already inside. All right. All right, so now we got the bottom mount system set up with the power supplies. We have all of our cables ready to go, and I already cut the vinyl stand, vinyl tubing, so it's at the height that I want, but you can always easily adjust it later. So I'm just gonna see how it looks first. Put that in, and it's in. And I like that height. That is about right. If you close it down how I kind of know where I want it, is when I close it down, I want to have a little bit of headroom, because you got to imagine when that pigtails are in there, when you run these pigtails through and the Phoenix connectors are sitting on top of the board, you need a little bit of space. So this is where PG9s aren't that bad. And then and Jason, I believe instead of using cable glands, you're a person that likes the cable connectors, right? The 3/4 inch. Yes. Hmm. Yeah. No, no, we're talking about
Yeah.
how it's so much dependent on climate. Some of the advice that we can give here is totally dependent on our environment and stuff like that. So, like, yeah, that for us that works perfect. I mean, I use that for a lot of my cable guard enclosures just to get that extra little secure fit. It's not about, because the cable guard's already got that foam at the bottom, so it really does a lot of that work for you. But just in case I have somebody helping me and they tug on that cable a little bit, that's why I like those clamps. That because you tighten it up, those things aren't going to be pulling at all. That's really the important thing. I think what the cable gland does, what those clamps do, is that it's not about like not making water come in, or that's a part of the thing, but it also allows you to tighten down that cable connection right there. So then if you're tugging on it, or if you're grabbing that cable, you aren't pulling the components inside your enclosure. None of those things are moving. That's the advantage of these.
Yeah, here's a shot if anybody's wondering what they look like, those
Thank
cable
you.
clamps. So I was running them in my 1500s, but I don't think I'm going to put them in these new boxes.
So, so now that the ends have I really love these ferrule connectors. And so I'm just want to look to make sure I'm doing the right connections. So with the ferrule connectors, now that everything is opened all the way, all I got to do is stick them in like that, and then like that, and then boom, that's in. I don't have to worry about any fray wires. I just love these ferrule connectors. See, boom. Now it's nice and secure of a connection. Don't have to worry about any fray wires. If I need to take the top mounting part off easily, I just boom, 8 screw parts I disconnect, and then all the Phoenix obviously connectors you have to pull out. But then it's like boom, it's out. And then with the pyramid style that the power supplies are mounted to, you have easy access to do maintenance on your power supplies. So there, that's done. Let's get the next side here. Oops, this needs to be a little looser. Yep, that's in. And that's in. So that's that side. So yeah, yeah, gotta love it. It's just when you're building these things, the idea of not having to worry about fray wires or any kind of connection issues like that, or the things I hate about the F-16s or any of the Falcon boards and these capes is this is just a weak way of doing a connection, you know. And I love if we could get a screw terminal away like power supplies are, that it's a bolt that you screw onto and you can connect the spade connector easily to. I think that would be the biggest revolutionary thing to come in pixel controller powers. Because yeah, yeah, they've got those. No, I think most popular ones are those kind of, yeah. No, yeah, that's a good one. I really like that one. I think any of the ones that make the connections easy to work with is a win, because it's just so easy for potential failures if this connection is not tight enough. And it's too easy for people that are getting into this to potentially over tighten, or the soldering connections at the bottom become loose. So there. So there, I'm that's it. I honestly at this point I could power this board up and I'm ready to go. Let's do that. So oh, we gotta get the connect. So we got that connected. I think I'm missing one thing. Where did that go? Where did we go? Where did we go? Ah, here it is. So just gonna want to lift this up really quick. Get this connected. And now that I don't have to really move that mount anymore, I'm actually going to tighten that up to its tightest part. It does not need to move anymore. I got to get this longer cable, but that'll work for today. Oops. Oh no. Oh, we're doing this live, so. Yes, exactly. Yep. Great. Yep. So wow. It's not easy to get to that. We'll do it live, he says. Jeez. the problem was is the I think I pulled on it, and it's the problem with these SD slots is that they're not like they don't lock. It's too easy to pull. You can if you ever try to grab the SD card when it's supposedly in its locking position, you can still slide it right out. So see, that's why I like the ferrule connectors. That took 2 minutes, pretty quick. And now I got to do this. So
You're just doing that as an example, right?
yeah, see, this is what if you were to try to reflash the SD card, this is what you have to do. Boom, it's in there. I'm done. All right, let's try not to play with that. Don't touch the SD card slot anymore, Keith. So we really only need to go into port number 1 for testing. So let's just do that. I think that's the one over here. It's by the side with the buck converter. The buck converter is that thing that sticks up at the top here. All right, so everything else is fine, and we can plug it in, and then it'll give us a port, and we can be able to connect to it, and then that's it. That's pretty much how easy it is to build an enclosure. And then we're going to show you some really cool. Once this guy's powered up, I'm going to show you how easy it is to build your own kind of mounting designs off of Jdeation Designs, and some of the newer, some of the new kind of enclosures you got on your website now, kind of the new mounting systems. I think that's going to be really cool to show everyone. And I just forgot the. We're doing it live. Forgot the OLED screen.
Oh shoot!
So it's assigning an IP or it's assigning an IP right now, and I don't know what it is. So we're just gonna have to. I'm just gonna turn it off. There's a power button, and it does like a safe power off. So that's kind of a handy thing. So if you ever feel like you have to turn the system off for some reason, and you don't want to go to the user interface, or you're not sure if it's pushing data, and it's still not a good idea to unplug these things while it's still pushing data. I have corrupted an SD card recently. Even though the Falcon Pi player has been better, it still has that occasional SD card problem still. That's kind of the negative. And of course, it's going to take a little while because it's actually installing.
Was in the boot up, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jason, for popping in, man.
Thanks, Jason.
Hey, guys. Yeah, those mounts are great. Definitely check out. Oh, it powered off. That's great. So now let's get the OLED screen on there. That's plugged in now. Let's unplug. Hey, we're professionally trying here.
You're doing awesome, Keith.
I am. How long I've been doing this? It's just 3 hours now. Holy freaking cow!
I think it hasn't been that long, has it?
I think.
Oh well.
We started exactly. Oh,
yeah,
2 hours.
I'm gonna have to check on mine.
2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you stuck around,
well, we're about done. So
we are.
We got eight faithful people still watching. So
well, that's awesome. Thank you, guys. If you want to hop on, I think Brian's reading the comments. So if you comment, Go read them.
I did. I threw the link in the comments and everything. So if they had any questions, Bobby did ask about the link, so I did repost that. Although it is up in the top part uh,
Good.
of the page, there's a list of links up there.
So that's it. I powered it on. It's got an IP address. It says it's an idle. So boom, it's done. It's ready to go. So that was it. That's building an enclosure using the Falcon Pipe Layer. I did kind of want to show another way of installing. I actually have another SD card over here but I think we're kind of running kind of late. So unless people are interested in that, there is another way of setting up your Falcon Pipe Layer. You can just throw the SD card on there after the image is etched onto the SD card, and you, instead of running um, it on your show network, you can actually plug the BeagleBone into your computer, and it will assign an IP address. The IP address is always the same. With Windows, it's not, you could go to on your web browser 192.168.7.2, and that's for Windows, and that will bring you right into the Falcon Pipe Player user interface, the web user interface, and from there you can set up your Falcon Pipe Player with wireless or whatever else you need to do, and you're off to the races. You don't have to connect your the Ethernet to your computer, like I saw somebody do recently, and try to configure IPs that way. You can just simply just plug a USB cable from your pipe layer to the BeagleBone to your computer, and you can set it up all that way. It's that easy. So yes, that's awesome. I really love these enclosures. So I think we've been kind of going a little long here. I do kind of want to show really one little quick thing. I do want to show you CCL Ricky's website, how to buy enclosures from his website. We did kind of show that really quick. Brian, you can bring that up really quick one more time. So
I
Brian,
am on it.
so I feel like if this is a little too much for you, at least for your first build, and you kind of just want to see how somebody professionally did it, I definitely suggest checking Ricky's website out. It is a great resource when it comes to this kind of stuff. Brian is bringing up the website right now. And then we're gonna do a quick little Jdeation Designs show, and then after that, I think that's gonna be it. I thank everyone for tuning in this long. You never really know how long these things kind of take. Building them live is a little different, and building it at home probably only takes about 20 to 30 minutes to do it when you're not in front of the camera.
Always.
My dog is under this table and she just loves me right now, so I think this is going to be her new spot.
And Keith, I also posted a link. I use this. It's a kit with size standoffs.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if I can, oh come on, there it goes. So I did post a link on there for that, for those standoffs too, because it probably has. I mean, if you're double stacking, it's got the longer ones in there for the standoffs. So I did post that as well.
That's good. Yeah. It kind of those boilers are so new. So to give credit to Jason and Jdeation, traditionally all the standoffs that are already provided in the kit, they're perfect for those flat boards. They're not really designed for capes. So when you get into capes, I'm sure eventually there'll be a whole cape kit that you can buy, and they'll have the right standoffs and stuff like that. I can't speak for Jason in particular, but knowing him, it's just there'll be something that'll come out. But yeah, so this is Ricky's website. Again, we showed this earlier. Brian, I feel like we did forget one thing that's kind of important. Can you bring up our sponsor today? So we do have a sponsor for our show. And so this isn't going to be the end of the show because we can't do that. So this is the middle of the show right now. Yeah, you didn't expect that. It's the middle. And
Yeah.
our sponsor today is, and it's going to be our sponsor for a little while here, is Zazzle. Zazzle. So Zazzle is providing us with a platform for us to sell basically merchandise. We have all kinds of fun professional triers gear, all designed and made by our own JR Matos. So you can get all kinds of nice, blinky, flashy gear, low down gear. That all of it is just perfect catered to each's personality. Like that notepad speaks to Brian. Like, and then yeah.
Well, forced to habit, I went to the blinky flashy stuff, so
Yeah.
I had to back up and come back into yours.
No,
So.
no, yeah, hot or not, okay.
Playing cards.
It speaks to me. I'm playing cards. You got a shot glass, you got a coffee mug. We need a moonshine mug though.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Got the new trier.
Since you're drinking moonshine on the previous podcast. So.
Always gotta love that moonshine. Hickory smoked.
There you go.
Yep. Mesquite. Yeah. So that's our new logo for the new Triers Workshop. This is kind of a pilot episode of that show. So yeah, and then more volts, more beta. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So definitely check
there's
out.
A ton of stuff on it, so.
Yeah, ton of stuff.
And you got to get the notebook. I mean, everybody uses the notebook, so you got to use the notebook or get the notebook. So
please,
there it is.
Definitely. Yeah, and don't forget the pen while you're at it.
Oh yeah. I think there's a pen for each one, but we'll just go to the blinky flashy stuff.
You need a Sharpie version too.
Yeah, there you go.
Big old red Sharpie. Not that guy. So not that guy. Hey, welcome to the Triers Workshop. How you doing, buddy? Not that guy is somebody that just joined the Zoom. I realize if you're watching this after it's been recorded, you're probably like, what are these guys talking about? And he's gone.
Who is that? Oh, yeah, he left. You scared him off.
I don't mean to do that.
No.
So, yeah, that's our sponsor.
But, yeah, a lot of great stuff in this Zazzle.com. Go visit it. We should be getting a coupon code for our listeners and watchers. So we'll have to get with JR on that, see if we have that yet, so we can save you guys some money. You can pick up some pretty cool looking gear to look awesome in Trans World at your mini shows.
You're going to get big
the talk of the town. Oh, you broke up on me. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said you're going to get big hugs from us. If
I didn't hear what you said.
That gear.
Heck yeah, Gary. Excuse me, guarantee it.
So if you want to stop sharing your screen.
Yep, I was already on that, looking for it.
All right, so now let me show you. So let's do a design because this is our middle of our show now.
I got to go check on my brisket in a minute. I haven't heard the steam pop, so I think we're all right.
Okay. All right, so this is Jdeation Designs website here. So Jdeation Designs has a bunch of templates for all kinds of different enclosures. Some of the newer ones that they have are the 32010s, which are like these small enclosures. You can see they use a can, a soda can or a beer can as a size representation. You really should use bananas. I don't know if you know that joke, but bananas make the best size
comparison. Yeah.
And then you have the I think more traditional, the 3206 16s, the 12s. Get bigger, the 22s, 28. So these are all different kinds of mounts. And then he's got ones that are specifically just for power supply or HP server power supplies. He's got the one we just worked on with ammo boxes, cable guard enclosures, all kinds of examples. So I really want to look at this little guy because you're probably thinking, well, that's a really tiny enclosure. What can you possibly fit in that little thing, right? Well, these
I
are actually,
totally could have used it this year.
this is perfect for like house outlines or like put it in under the eaves or something. But like,
Oh, for my big ass arrow.
oh yeah, the arrows. Yeah, a Pacific prop that you need to
Yeah.
have a lot of outputs already. Boom, that perfect. So yeah, these, as you can see in these photos, they're kind of a double mounting system. You can have a receiver. I think you can even fit a F4 on there. I wouldn't be surprised. But the cool thing
Yeah.
about this is I can customize this exactly how I want this. So if I go down, my eyes are horrible. So if I go down to customize design, and it brings me this whole new, and he just updated this, so it's at another level than it was just last year. So you check it out, and it allows you to kind of move, your components around. You can choose other components. So add electronics. Let's go to, I'm curious, if I go to a Falcon, let's see the F here. So I was saying, hey, maybe a F, maybe not. So let's delete that guy.
Yeah.
Nah, it's just a little too. Let's see if I rotate him 90 degrees. Yes. So I won't fit that. But here, look, how cool is that? I can actually size up my components to see what's going to be able to fit and how I want it to fit. So this is kind of really cool. What
Yeah, super cool.
it is. You're still going to want to size up your wires and stuff. But here, I'm going to show you something really cool. So let's get this up here. Okay, we got a power supply. Let's say I want to make this design. Okay, so I have two options here. I can fabricate the design. Well, first I got to save this. Oh, gotta log in. Ooh. Let me go back. Okay, so now I'm logged in. I'm going to save this for later. It's saved. Now that it's saved, I can download it as a PDF, or I can go right away and fabricate it. And fabricating, basically, you follow these steps. Um, the second step's kind of the key one at this point, is that you're going to want to copy this code down, and then when you look up, copy the code down, and then when you go to your store, and here's the build, the base build. The only way that Jason and his team knows how you want your mounting configuration to be is you have to fill in that code into this little field right here. And then that allows his team to go back into the database, find your design that you just made, and it doesn't print it, it cuts it with a laser and an acrylic. So it's really handy. But the thing I really want to show is this download function. So it's going to download it. It's going to take a second to go and do its thing. So it's going to do it. So I'm going to open this up. So is this still showing?
It's still on the build screen.
Oh, sorry. Here. I have to stop sharing for a second and start sharing again. So how do I make it so there it is. Okay, so now that we have the PDF of that file, let's go and print it up. So we're going to go to print, and why is this? Oh, I know why. Because you want it to open up in Adobe Acrobat. That's the important thing. So there it is. So now that it's open in Adobe Acrobat, I can now go and print. Print. And the important settings is to put it on poster, make sure you're at 100%, and then your cut marks are shown. So after that's done, I'm going to print it, and it will print. And I actually did this beforehand because I didn't want the printer to go right now. The last thing I wanted was just like a loud, because the printer's like right by the mic. So like the last thing I wanted was this loud printing sound. So let me just get the print out. And I'm just going to get the print out. And I'm not going to really, just going to kind of show you what I'm trying to drive at here. the cool thing about the printout is you can use the printout you can actually put this on like a cutting board, or you can even put it on the board you were showing, Brian, and you can stencil the cutout using the template that you just printed. So you can get that exact same mounting way that you want it at home by just getting a piece of wood and outlining and cutting it yourself. Another thing you could do is you could have Jason fabricate it themselves, which I recommend. But also, this allows you to measure up, size up your wires. So now that you know where everything's going to kind of be set up, you can actually line up your wires, and you can get a rough estimate of how much you're going to need or what your cutting is, even before you even get the design at your doorstep or start cutting. So that's kind of the great thing about Jdeation Designs and all the different kind of mounting systems and closures. It's not hard to do. Ricky's got a website that provides it. So if you want to design or get a pre-made one, those are available. But I hope by watching this long video, that you've kind of learned something, or maybe not. We're just trying something here. We're the professional triers. We don't know what's going to stick or what's going to work, but we try.
Giving it a shot.
We're giving it a shot. So that's it. I think I don't have any other thoughts. Brian, do you have anything you want to ask or any kind of thought you had or anything?
No, and I was thinking about this yesterday because I didn't want my first year. I had everything else going on, trying to get, X lights, design a show, get props and all that. So I did do the pixel controller boxes with my F16 V3s. No shame in that whatsoever. The following year, my show grew. So I added more lights. So I added an additional power supply to those boxes. And now next year, my show's going to grow more. So now I'm going to build 3 new boxes to add expansion boards to them, and probably enough 32 as well. So, to start off small, as your show grows, make it so you can grow it.
That's kind of why I really like as a home hobbyist at this. The ammo boxes are a good way to go about it. There's so much space. Buying a Rubbermaid or buying a already built toolbox or something like that and turning that into an enclosure. Those things give you so much space to grow. And really, that when you're designing these, you're spending the money, the time. That's kind of a good thing to have. That's really a great thing to have. We're all constantly growing our shows, and to have, I hate to see controllers and then having another controller or enclosure and having another enclosure on top of another one, just because you didn't have the forethought to put enough space in that first enclosure to stick everything into it. So with that, that's a great point. Thank you, Brian, for mentioning that, because in one of my favorite still enclosures to this day is my ammo box right here that I actually it just uses the cutting board at the bottom, and the power supplies are mounted to the cutting board, and then the receiver is mounted to that, and then there's a couple wires going right to the power supply to the receiver, and the pigtails. I mean, it's a great design. There's so many ways. This hobby is so versatile as far as what you can do. I know people that just, we talk a lot about this stuff. If you want to get more into depths about how different enclosures you can make them, we have a hot or not. I believe Brian was on it, Vinny was on it at the same time, and we dove into all of our different ways that we make our mounts and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So without further ado, I leave all you and have a nice rest of Saturday. Go. We got 2 more weeks or 1 more week in the Super Bowl. That's good.
Got tomorrow. Got the championship games: AFC Championship, NFC Championship. Go Chiefs! And then 2 weeks after that will be the Super Bowl. So the in between week is the Pro Bowl in Florida. So good times.
Well, everyone enjoy.
Always root for my Chiefs.
Yeah. All right, everyone.
We got to make it eventually.
It's probably this year. So.
God, I hope so.
Without further ado, I leave you all. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.